Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel today. I want to talk to you about something that's been on the minds of a lot of South Africans, some English, when considering moving to New Zealand. Even my wife's son in America might be curious about it. Now, New Zealand is a beautiful country. It has so much to offer, but before you pack your bags, there are some important things I should let you know, and there are 5 reasons why you might not want to come and make the big move. Now, let's put number 1, the cost of living. I just talked about this in a previous post. Let's get started with the cost of living. New Zealand is known for being expensive, especially when it comes to housing. Cities like in Auckland and Wellington are notoriously pricey. Even smaller towns, I'm in Invercargill at the moment, you know, it's rising, the cost rises. If you're used to a lower living expense in South Africa, it's expensive in England, but South Africa, let's talk about South Africa. I had a humble US dollar income in South Africa. It dropped a little bit coming back to New Zealand. And I can't afford to go to a silver service restaurant, Mona Vida, El Punto, what's the place at Mitchell Park? Hey, guys no longer there. The chef's no longer there. Butcher Boys and on Florida Road, Calf Society, if it's still there. We used to go there all the time. But New Zealand, a luxury is something much more humble. You know, we freedom camp. We camp on the side of a lake if it's allowed. And we housed it. We're house sitting a 6-bedroom home here in Invercargill. Even in Invercargill, if this person sold this home, you could buy a Bishop's Court house with a helicopter pad, high security, tennis courts and a gymnasium for the price of this home. A humble home. I put some pictures up in Auckland. $1.2 million is the average home in Auckland, which in Rand is about 12 million Rand. Oh, amazing expensive, the average home. And that is no swimming pool, no braai area, you know, no fence, which is always quite good. You know, that's just what it costs. Let's talk about job market challenges. Next, while New Zealand often advertises itself for needing skilled workers, and it desperately needs skilled workers. Like, I used to just rock up to my doctor without an appointment in Durban and get an appointment to see him or her, depends who's on duty. In New Zealand, the reality is not always so easy to match qualifications for jobs. You know, you got to make sure if you come out here. A friend was a Macro Walmart executive. He's just a manager of the warehouse here. You know, his qualifications and experience did not match up to New Zealand's qualifications and experience. This is often happens. The husband, I'm the husband, has this wonderful, powerful life in South Africa, you know, grew up in the auto industry, worked through sales or development, and he has got a prestigious, beautiful life in South Africa, working for Toyota or Newton-Hague for Volkswagen, or in Johannesburg for lovely car manufacturers. He's been a developer, and he's got rightful prestige in product development, car development, but there's no auto industry in New Zealand. For example, you know, all the car factories have closed. There's some gorgeous restoration and coach building cars here, but they're not employing. But the wife is a teacher. The wife is a nurse. I don't mean to be too sexist. My wife is a food scientist. We come back here, and my wife has the credentials. It wasn't easy for her because she was often told she had too much experience, i.e. too old. Don't say that to Tracy. But now she is the breadwinner. The tables have turned. She earns much more than I do and can get. Even though they need drivers, truck drivers, one of my qualifications. They want you to drive 50 to 80 hours a week. I don't think 80 is legal, but a friend of mine, he's been a police officer, a traffic officer around South Africa, police officer, highly ranked. He's driving for Linfox. He drives petroleum trucks and aircraft engine fuel trucks, the highest pay drivers. And he's working so many hours. He's had to have his knees replaced because he's a big, heavy Afrikaner, healthy Afrikaner man. Wonderful guy. Came to our wedding. And he said to me the other day, he said, after all the deductions, he's earning about $28 an hour. You know, what's that? 280 Rand an hour? But, you know, the real income for him would be about $40 an hour. You know, the gross, but he said the take home is about $28 an hour. But he gets lots of hours. Now, if you're going to come to New Zealand as a driver today, you won't get a permanent visa, probably. You have to consult with an expert. But you'll come out here as a chef. You used to be given residency before you arrived as a chef, but now you won't be given residency. Some of our Asian cousins were a bit liberal with their visa applications. And so the government's cracked down on using chef as a qualification. But they desperately need chefs. But you have to be, I'm not sure the income now, you have to be about $80,000 a year to be a chef. But that won't give you, you won't earn that as a chef. So you won't get a full permanent residence visa. So don't come out to New Zealand if you understand you might not get a permanent residency visa. But I still meet South African truck drivers out here. It's very rural where I am. And they're driving, and they're very frugal, and they're saving all the money they earn. So when they go back to South Africa, they'll have money in their hands. If you're a Kiwi, you might not save that much money. You know, I drove truck for one night and I thought, no, this is not for me. And this guy was, he could hardly walk. He was keep on joking about how hard it was for him at his age, and I found out he's actually younger than me. Not very healthy. So before you come out here, make sure your qualifications become a permanent visa. And if they don't, do come out, but you've got to learn to be very frugal with the way you live, because it's very expensive to live in New Zealand, and you can make good money. New Zealand's income, comparing to our trading partners of Spain, Portugal, Italy, Greece, our European trading, is comparable. So, but the cost of living is much more. Back in South Africa, in Durban and Cape Town, I didn't really understand this. And even when I was married in South Africa to a South African lady, I was always a traveller. And so cultural adjustment and isolation, that wasn't a thing for me, because I would just pack my bags and travel. When you get children, that's not so easy. And now my children and my wife's children are traveling. We have 4 children in 4 continents. Get that one around your head. Well, I didn't understand it. I'd meet ladies in South Africa, and I guess people in South Africa, and I'd think, why don't you want to come to New Zealand? It's wonderful. This is a big one for my wife. She didn't understand my traveling idea. And I said, you do understand, when my son leaves school, I'm going to start traveling again. One son was at Kearsney, the other one was at St Henry's in Durban, near at the Benny Hospital. And Tracy's youngest had just finished school. So my son leaves school, and I book a flight 2 days after. 2 weeks before my wife's birthday. We weren't married then, apart from her wanting to murder me. I didn't understand this fixed culturalness. Then Tracy's daughter left South Africa after Tracy left South Africa, but Tracy has still not really immigrated to New Zealand. She's got a residency, but her heart's still in South Africa, and very much so. So before you come to New Zealand, Tracy's church is really important to her. Me, I just go to church for the sermon. Tracy goes, you know, I grew up Catholic, you know, don't touch me, don't pray on, don't touch me, don't. Tracy wants that touchy of the church with her. She went to Emmanuel in Somerset, next door to the Gateway in Umhlanga. And I went to Grace Family Church, and even though that's a very touchy church, it all of a sudden grew so big, but nobody knew who I was after a while, even though I'm nearly a founder of the church. It's like 500 people. But if this cultural thing of yours in South Africa is important, like I dated Asian ladies, they would never survive New Zealand. Indian ladies, because their family isn't here. So I don't meet many Asian South Africans in New Zealand. I meet people from Mitchell's Plain, the Cape Town people, and I meet people from East London and Port Elizabeth. But I don't meet Asian people immigrating to New Zealand, because Asian people have to have their family. And if you're like my wife doesn't have a big extended family, but her church is her extended family. So you've got to think of that culturalism. My children are mixed race kids. My oldest son had been out here when he was about 10. My youngest son came to live here. Black belt jiu-jitsu and judo. And my son never used to go to nightclubs. It wasn't really his thing, but he was so lonely, experiencing new student life, he came across alcohol and racism. My son's not into alcohol. He's into jiu-jitsu, he's into music, he's into his church. And some guys wanted to fight him. No, some guys that attacked an Indian guy from India, student, about racism, being but nasty. And so my son comes in to save them, and he throws him onto the road physically. And then they all tried to attack him, but that wasn't a problem. So it's sometimes hard. It's hard for kids to come here. So you got to think of it. A child last week 14-year-old child got beaten up by a 16-year-old school kid in Ashburton, South African, proudly wearing his colours. And that can happen. Tracy's son Michael got stabbed in Johannesburg at his school. A dear friend of mine, Maria, at Northwood Girls in Durban, she got stabbed by another girl in South Africa. But that does happen here too. You don't get stabbed so readily here in New Zealand. People don't carry weapons in New Zealand, but some schools have bullying. So you've got to think of, when you come out to New Zealand, how is it going to affect you culturally? How's it going to affect your kids culturally? Tracy works with one lady. Her daughter finds it hard to fit in with her school, and she's about 16 now. I believe she must be doing better. And but I used to get bullied at school, but also I was brown belt in karate. Moving up I don't have an equivalent. Our style didn't have belts. But I was quite serious in karate. So when some kids attacked me, I just threw them over, and it wasn't a problem for me. It was a problem for my teachers. Now this is a big one. I'm just looking at the video behind me. It looks like blue sky. Alas, it's not. Weather conditions is a big one for people in New Zealand. I go onto Facebook groups in New Zealand. I talk to the English folks. Yes, you can come to New Zealand in winter and have a swim at the beach. And the English do come to New Zealand in the winter and swim at the beach. But my dear friends from Msluti, not my friends from Cape Town, the water's as cold in Cape Town as it is in around where I stay at the moment. Near Palmerston North, the water's not so cold. The Turf of Thames, the water's not so cold. The Bay of Islands, the water is cold, but not so cold. But everywhere, generally, for South Africans, you think you'll have missed the summer. So, I'm in the rural and a person's just walking by. And so, on the Facebook groups in Auckland, you see people talking about the weather in Auckland and Whangarei in winter. It rains a lot. It rains a lot. Down in Invercargill in winter, it sometimes doesn't rain as much as it does in Auckland. It's cold in Invercargill. There's an island off the shore of Invercargill, a big island. And it stops, it's called a rain shadow. So all the rain lands on the island and not the city of Invercargill. So Invercargill, it is cold. It's like 9 degrees today, and it's the second warmest day of the week. We had a day of 12 degrees. I was ready to go to the beach. But if you come to New Zealand from Durban or the Karoo or Cape Town. I lived on Victoria Road in Cape Town in Sonica's apartment on the penthouse. Even in the winter it looked fabulous. In the summer it was gorgeous, except for the windy days. But I loved the windy days because I just closed my doors and it was gorgeous. Here we can have wind and rain. Like Forrest Gump said, we had horizontal rain and we had rain which came up. That's what Forrest Gump said. And that can be very much New Zealand's weather. If you're an outdoorsy braai person, barbecue person as the rest of the world says, the winter you can't do it outdoors every day. If you're English, you can have a barbecue outside all the time. I lived in England, people have barbecues like they do here. If they want to have barbecues, go out in the rain, just put an umbrella over. Though here it's wet. But if you're into the outdoors and you've got hat, if you've got thermal underwear in the winter, it can be really nice weather in the summer. People fly from around the world for skiing, hiking. Even in the winter, I have friends who go hiking in the winter. You got to be mindful of the weather. So come out here. As a Canadian says, there's no bad weather in Canada. There's bad clothing. The thing is, New Zealand's not really cold, but it's not hot. We don't have many days of 40 degrees below Celsius. I don't know if we do have. In Queenstown, 3 hours drive from me, they have a lot of snow in winter. But if I went there today, there won't be any snow around the city. There was heavy snow nearby Queenstown last week. But that's a wonderful thing. A huge amount of Australians come here for skiing in the winter. People come down from Europe. The skiers come down from Europe in the New Zealand winter for skiing, and they live here for 6 months skiing. Then they go back to Europe for 6 months skiing. So, but it can be a tough transition. This is a funny one. Limited social and recreational options. Finally, here in New Zealand, it's famous for its stunning outdoors, of course. Some South Africans find it limiting socially and recreational. Compared to, it depends what you're used to. I've never been big on going to the nightclubs. Yeah, I used to live right next door to Billy the Bums, and I used to hang out at Billy the Bums on Windermere Road. I can't remember, Lillian Nagoya Road now. But I've never really been into the nightclub scene, ever. My nephew is as a SNL skit would say, is rather flamboyant. Oh, lovely kid, lovely young man. And him and his partner came to my mother's 90th birthday. So on social media, he posted pictures of him with his grandma and the cousins and the nephews at the restaurant we're at. And then he posted a series of pictures right up to 4 a.m. at the disco. and some of my sons were saying, hey, Daniel, did grandma's party become a disco? This is Palmerston North. So, he had so much fun in Palmerston North because he was from there, but he knew the nightclubs to go to. So if your social scene is nightclubs, even in a small city of like Palmerston North, which is a lot of students, large nursing hospital, large army base, the only army base, the only full-sized army base, he found a progressively friendly nightclub to party at. So it's what you're used to. There's a South African group up there who go four-wheel driving every weekend. So you got to make what social and recreation you want to do. That I think South Africa has more big concerts than New Zealand. So if you want to go see a big concert of a leading star, probably South Africa, but then you'd be so sad that, we don't have concerts. But there's lots of stuff happening. Though my wife Tracy just wants to sit at home all night. She comes home exhausted, and 2 nights ago I went to not a political, a community political event, and it was wonderful. But then she doesn't see any activity here for her. I remember mentioning that she just likes church activities. Then last night I was at Toastmasters. I'm forcing myself to get active in this little town of 60,000. I've told you the two sides of the coin here, and 5 reasons why you don't come here if you don't like such and such. And though if you're adaptable, this is a wonderful place. If you learn to be frugal, this is a wonderful place. There's a man I know who spent 11 million New Zealand dollars for his visa. So it's 110 million rand for a visa. And he's working behind a till at a shop which he's helped set up. There's a man who owned London Pies. I never met him, but I know his house. His house is not in an area like Zimbabwe. It's in a nice area overlooking the ocean, but it's not like Zimbabwe. It's not like Camps Bay, the mega house. Some of the mega houses in Camps Bay, there aren't that many, but you know what I'm saying. You have to be humble, and you can have a wonderful time. Subscribe, comment. If you've got any questions, any ideas, let me know.